Welcome to Integrating Technology and Design. This is a CEDIA professional development course. A little bit about me. My name is Jen Mallett. I am the CEO and founder of Level Up Automation. I've been in the home technology industry for 25 years. And I am also what's called a smart home CE provider, which means that I've gone through instruction to be able to deliver CEU courses like this to architects, interior designers, builders, other trades that want to really understand more about home technology and where it's headed, and also earn credits for it. So a little bit about my company, Level Up Automation. We create really smart homes and intelligent buildings. We design smart homes, we install them, and we service them. So we are full service. We operate in 10 US markets in the United States currently. Who is CEDIA? CEDIA stands for the Custom Electronics Design and Installation Association. It is the global nonprofit that supports home technology integrators and their support and industry trades like builders, architects, interior designers, and electricians. CEDIA has partnered with IDCEC in order to provide CEUs. So the IDCEC have reviewed all of these courses and approved them to provide credits towards your professional accreditation. This has been a great partnership with CEDIA so that we can really help everybody stay on track and up to date with the latest in home technology as it continues to emerge. So this is an IDCEC approved class. Our learning objectives today are fourfold. First, we really want to help you understand what technologies are available for homeowners. A lot of this is about what is possible. We find that many people don't know that automated shades are possible, or automated lighting, or other aspects of their home that can really be integrated into an experience where multiple systems operate together. So the first really is helping you understand what's possible. The second is really understanding how can a home technology professional and also design thinking with a home technology professional help you understand what are the key coordination points on how we can come together to make sure that a new home or an existing home or a home that's being remodeled really can have the infrastructure in place so that the things that are possible can become possible with the infrastructure that is needed through wireless products and control systems. Thirdly, we're really going to help you determine ways how to find a qualified technology integrator like Level Up or another company. There's over 2,500 of us that are CEDIA members that are available in the US and globally. And really what value we can bring to a residential project to help support and be a trusted advisor to you as that project is going along. The pace of technology is very fast, and to have an expert on your side that is absolutely skilled up and educated up on really what the right paths are and what the right possibilities are to really create a sustainable, stable technology experience for that homeowner. That is what the integrator does. And then lastly, really to help you consider how to develop a robust, repeatable process for how you integrate technology into the home as part of the design process. And we'll get a little bit more detail along when the home is being designed. At what point do you want to consider integrating technology into those architectural plans? What are people putting in their homes? So this is what is possible. So most homes have HVAC controls, lighting. They may have cameras. They probably have TV and audio and different things. They might have window treatments. They may have smart locks and access control. So you see that as smart homes and intelligent buildings start to evolve, that these things are becoming more prevalent in homes. Some of them, though, are already existing. So HVAC controls have been around for a long time, where you set schedules and are able to create kind of manual adjustments, right? So that is one that's been in place for a while, and the smart thermostat has seen a lot of great growth over the last 10 years. Matter of fact, between the HVAC control and then the video doorbell, we really look at those as entry-level products into the smart home interface. But it really is much broader than those two elements. Those are just very small starting points to provide really the convenience and enable people to understand what the capabilities are to really manage and live in a modern home. So in this case, if we're looking at whole home music, you'll notice that this photo is in the ceiling. This is a great example where this house actually worked within the plans to design architectural audio. That's what we call it. Speakers that are in the ceiling, flush in the ceiling, or in some cases, actually hidden behind the drywall, completely invisible. And when we look at whole home music, we're looking at designing where are the spaces that are most important for the homeowner in terms of being able to really take in their entertainment, whether that be a dedicated home theater, whether it be music in their kitchen. And how do we take those audio products, take them off countertops and blend them into the design of the home so that they're hidden away and the full enjoyment is recognized without the products taking up space. And through proper planning, that can get done. We also know through streaming that many people are very much moving towards listening to music that is coming from Spotify or Pandora or some other streaming source, and their ability to enjoy the convenience of music anywhere is now more accessible than ever. But in order to really realize that capability within a home design, you need to plan for those audio zones, understand which zones are going to work together, and then also what type of audio products are going to be right for that house, and how do we coordinate the wiring as part of that as well. Because there's a lot, we'll talk a little bit about wired and wireless products, and while things are wirelessly controlled now, they all still do need to receive power and are typically hardwired during the new construction phase or the remodel phase in particular. And if it's retrofit, then it's fishing wires. Architectural lighting. So downlights here that we have, they've been in place for a long time. You know, the big change here really is around the temperature of light and how you can essentially use control systems to manage the temperature of the light, whether it's warm or cool. We have an entire course just on integrated lighting design that is similar to this that provides CEUs. So if you're interested in that, check it out. But architectural lighting, not only can we change the color temperature, and that can move along with really what's happening outside, for example, with the sun, but also it enables us to be able to control it either through wall controls or through a smartphone or through voice. So more than ever, if you have, for example, a teenager that maybe leaves lights downstairs on often and forgets to turn them off, forgets to flip the switch, a good example here of smart home automation is perhaps you have a setting at 11 p.m., or maybe depending upon the teenager, it might be 1 a.m., that automatically turns all the downstairs lights off at 1 a.m. or 12 a.m., whatever the time is. So that's an example of that. For surveillance, really cloud-based cameras and the ability to be able to watch your property, especially if you have multiple properties or you're on vacation, or you just want to be able to really see inside or outside of your home at any point in time. Those capabilities have come a long way, and we actually can do a lot with surveillance and lighting and other aspects as well. So for example, it might be that you have a smart camera that while you're on vacation, we're able to program it to say, you know what, if the smart camera recognizes that there's somebody that should not be around the house, perhaps at night, maybe we trigger it so that the lighting, when the camera sees that there's somebody there that shouldn't be there, the light inside the house goes on. That's a great example of integrated technology. And that concept is called moccupancy, which basically creates an impression that there is somebody home while you're on vacation. So those things can work together through really great design planning. Window treatments, fast growing category, automated shades, automated drapes. It's a great ability to be able to manage. Really, the largest light source we have is the sun, right? So being able to protect your furniture, your art, your floors, being able to provide privacy at the right time, that capability is pretty fantastic. you can also incorporate window treatment automation with scenes and other things. A good example of this in my house, in my kitchen, where I do a lot of cooking and I make at night and I coffee in the morning, my shades automatically go up at sunrise and automatically go down at sunset. And that's because the system knows, where I am in the world and where the sun is based on the time of year. So it knows sunrise and sunset. And we program that so that it happens automatically. It doesn't need to be pressed or a command being provided. It's just an automatic capability that is a nice benefit. So we've always got light when we need it in the morning and privacy when we're cooking at night. TV and media room, obviously very prevalent in homes, making sure that we're designing the right capabilities for where the televisions are. So televisions require power. We absolutely, from a design perspective, and we speak with many designers, really want to talk about making sure that that television does not take over the room. And there's different design approaches you can take, whether it be a TV that really looks like art, a TV that looks like a mirror. There are TV lifts and other things that are possible as well. And making sure that the infrastructure behind that television is there. So we know that just like music, many people are streaming movies nowadays or shows, right? And so what you really want for that, in order to avoid having any network issues, is to hardwire that location with a network cable. So that's a great example of some of the design capabilities we do early on in the architectural plan process to make sure that, yes, each of these televisions are going to need to have power. They probably don't need coax anymore because people are cutting the cord, but the electrician may run it, which is okay. But they definitely need Cat6 networking cable to that location to really make sure that it's got a hardwired connection to avoid any buffering or disruption in the entertainment experience. Access control, this is really about being able to open and close and manage your access points in your house for your doors. So whether that be garages or front doors or back doors or doors within your home, being able to know if they're locked, being able to provide guest codes, and being able to tie in access control to other scenes. So a good example here would be the integrated home is going to essentially say goodnight. The doors are automatically going to be locked. The shades go down. The lighting goes down to the right level. So all those things can happen at once, along with things like HVAC controls and making sure that the temperature also is adjusted just with one press or one scene, not multiple apps or multiple motion needing to happen. And then the last piece, which is really the cornerstone of integrated technology design, is home control, full home control. And in the world of smart home, there have been a lot of apps that have been delivered. And it's been a great kind of growth trajectory for the industry, but it's presented a problem, which is people oftentimes have 5 or 6 different apps to control 5 or 6 different systems. You might have an app, like maybe it's a Spotify app to control your music. You might have a window app that controls your shade. You might have a camera app to control your surveillance. And that's all, those are all disparate technologies, right? And so instead of that being smart, it can kind of be work, right? To be able to do that. And then if you have things kind of break or you lose a password, it becomes quite hard to manage. So whole home control design is really where an integrator comes in as a specialist and is able to be that trusted advisor, because an integrator understands what brands work with other brands, and we can design around one app of control or one voice control system, whatever the preference is for the client. So whole home control is really a specialty for technology integrators. So let's get a little deeper into lighting and what integrated lighting looks like within designing a home. So for lighting, there are really 3 things we look at. One is the actual fixture. In this particular viewpoint here, you've got down lighting in the ceiling. You've got a chandelier over a table. You've got some other lighting fixtures that are over the island here. You may also have some toe kick lighting I see underneath some of the cabinets here. So the design here within this, so all of the infrastructure here, whether it be how much lighting is in the space, what lighting is needed, what is the temperature of that light and capability of the light, that in itself is part of the design process, and one that architects and interior designers and builders are very familiar with. What they may not know, depending upon their experience, is really what are the latest controls for those lighting, and how do we design around an experience that is being created within this area. So a great example of this would be, if we look at this lighting, an integrator as part of this design process would look at the plans and try to understand with the client, interior designer, and other people, all right, what are the experiences the people are going to have in this space? When they have dinner at this dining room table, what does that look like? What we would advise likely is that the temperature of this lighting comes down to a warmer color, a Kelvin that is much more kind of yellow orange than white, because that is what creates really a relaxing environment for people. We also may have certain lighting zones that we don't want to turn on. So a really good example of this is we want to avoid glare. Glare happens when you have a lot of downlights in the ceiling that are on. That is great if you are cooking. If you are cooking over this island, you want to be able to see what is happening with your knife and your hands and whatever you're chopping, right, or cutting. But you don't want that when you're relaxing and having dinner. So in this case, what we would design around is we would say, okay, for a dinner scene or an entertaining scene, we would actually create a scene that turns off the downlights at the top and the ceiling so that we can remove the glare, put a nice warm glow at the chandelier, keep the lighting over the island, the direct lighting there that is able to help the cook continue to work safely. But that creates a really nice environment. So we're looking at the fixtures, 1, 2, what can we do with those fixtures? What are the zones so that we can create an experience down the road? And we need to plan that early on, because the electrician is, of course, wiring all of these loads. So we need to make sure that they're wired in a way where we can control them independently easily later on. The third part of this really is what the wall controls look like. The modern day switch is very different from what we have now. So if you've ever been in a home where you've gone into the kitchen, and the kitchen typically has more lighting loads than a lot of other rooms because you have multiple working spaces here, you may run across a bank of switches that might be 6 long, right? And you may or may not know what all those switches do. So the modern design really for that, instead of having 6 switches to control this room, we might have 2 dimmers, a dimmer for the chandelier, maybe a dimmer for the things that are over the island here in the kitchen. And then we would have something called a keypad, which actually has scenes which create the rest of the lighting scenes. So we could have all on, all off. We can have a good night scene. We can have a good morning scene. And then that really controls the rest of the lighting experience in this area. So what it does is it takes away that bank of 6 switches and really creates 3 switches, cuts it in half, and really enables a more dedicated experience for the people living here. So that is an excellent, so it's really the fixture itself, the wall controls, and thinking about how people really want to experience this and being able to program scenes for them so that they can easily get to the enjoyment of the home without flipping through apps or flipping through other wall controls. Shading works very closely with lighting controls. So we talked a little bit earlier about how the sun is the largest light source that we have, right? So being able to control automated shades is a really growing category for us. We have a lot of people asking for this. There are really 2 ways to do it. We can hardwire to the shades for new construction, but we also have really great battery shades now that are wireless and will last anywhere between 3 to 7 years on double D batteries. So there are capabilities for existing homes to retrofit. There are capabilities to add shades down the road, automated shades, if the person did not wire for shades as part of that new build. So it's a flexible category. And, you know, what we do oftentimes, similar to the lighting, is we're thinking about how do people want to experience this room? When should the shades go down? At what level should they go down? The actual fabric that is being selected for the shade is a very important point that an integrator can advise on. You have some shades that are sheer, allow you to see through. You have other shades that are really room darkening, which enable much less light to filter through. Oftentimes we'll see room darkening shades in bedrooms and bathrooms, and we might see something more sheer in like a living room area here that allows people to look out. So these are internal shades, but there are also automated outdoor shades. Automated outdoor shades are great for outdoor living. So it might be that you have, for example, a particular house that their patio really gets a lot of sun and they want to be able to enjoy that area. A great opportunity there could be an automated awning that is available to them with the right design and the right power that's locally there. We can also have automated shades that keep out bugs from a covered patio, for example, enabling people to really enjoy the breeze from outside, but not the mosquitoes. So these are all examples of things that we can design around, especially in the new construction process, as long as we can get power and making sure we have internet connectivity available as part of our design, so that we can incorporate these things either at move-in or possibly later down the road. We future-proof it. Maybe in 2 or 3 years, they want to add outdoor shades. If we don't plan for it initially, it might be really expensive from a labor perspective to get the right wiring there. If we plan it early on in the architectural plans as part of that design process, then we're able to make sure that the infrastructure is there, so that is a lot more affordable and easier for the client. Climate and environmental control. So I mentioned that, you know, this has been a leading category. Smart thermostats have been really very popular over the last 10 years. It's relatively an easy product to install, an easy product to control. I think what we really focus on here as this category continues to become a standard is really making sure that when we look at the whole technology design for the project, making sure that the thermostat, connected thermostat that is selected is what we call interoperable with other control systems. And this is what helps us advise people to avoid having 6 apps. So in this case, you know, what we would do is we'd really understand, okay, what are the climate requirements for this particular house? How many zones are there? And then understanding, okay, how are we going to help them essentially select the right product that is going to give them capabilities down the road and not be a closed system? The other aspect of this, which is environmental control, is air quality. And there's been a lot of advancements in air quality. So for air quality products, there are connected air products that will look at the humidity in the house, which helps with understanding whether or not you're going to have a mold problem at some point, right? The air quality, the VOCs in the house can be measured through that. And what's really kind of nice, knowing that you might have high VOCs at one particular point in time, is helpful, but that doesn't help you change it, right? What's really nice about the environmental controls that are out there really are around understanding, okay, now's a good time to open your window, or now's a good time for your climate control system to circulate air, so that you can move through some of those things. So climate and environmental control are very much tied into wellness. And so that's a big part of what we do as well. Probably one of our more visible categories for designing technology in the home and integrating it really is around audio and video everywhere. And for audio, we talked a little bit earlier about architectural speakers. And you can see in this photo, there is a round speaker in the top kind of left middle-ish part of the screen. And that's a great example where, as part of the design process, we are pre-wiring to make sure that the audio zones have speaker cable that are run back to a central location where they are amplified and controlled and connected to the network. So as part of the design process, we're really understanding, how do people want to live in these spaces? Do they entertain? What sort of music do they listen to? What sort of fidelity are they looking for with their speakers? There's everything from contractor grade speakers, which just provide kind of very basic sound, to really higher quality speakers, which will provide really a more depth of experience in your audio. So that's a big part of what we do, is essentially at the new build process, understanding what rooms are going to have architectural speakers. As I mentioned earlier, these happen to be visible on the ceiling. We also have products which are completely invisible behind the drywall. And yes, they sound amazing. The engineering that has gone into invisible speakers over the last 5 to 10 years is amazing. They sound really, really great. We can also hide subwoofers. So if you have, for example, in this case, let's say people are watching movies in this room, we would want, our architectural speakers really to carry some of the audio. But if we want to add bass, and we like some bass in our movies, music, or gaming, then we would add in subwoofer. So we could put a subwoofer, for example, in the wall and hide it behind the wall, or we could have it as a freestanding item that is in this living room. But that is an example of part of the planning for each room that we're doing, identifying what audio products are needed, and then how they're going to listen to it, whether it be streaming or record players are coming back. And we don't really run into many people with CDs anymore, but we also can support that as well to make sure that they can get to their content. For video, we design, as I talked about earlier, really making sure that that streaming networking cable is available at each TV location, because people have just moved predominantly to streaming. So we want to hardwire each one of these televisions so there isn't any interrupted service or buffering. And we also want to make sure that we're looking at video in places that are valuable to people, and in a way that they are, so that we can look at, as I mentioned earlier, there are mirror televisions, there are artwork televisions. This particular one is actually above a fireplace, which is very common. You can see it's come off the wall and down. That could be an automated mount, or it could be a manual mount, right? Or it could be that the designer wants it to be completely flush built into the wall. We also have capability where we can design around actual art screen that is going to cover the television completely with a custom piece of artwork that the client wants, and then be able to lift up and show the television behind it. So there are a lot of possibilities with designing around technology as we get early in on the process, working with the client and the designer and the architect and the builder to make sure that we're giving a great entertainment experience. Talk a little bit about voice control, which has become popular over the last 5 years. And when we look at integrating design systems, we have voice control, we have controls on the wall, we have smartphone control, we have multiple places, we have smart remotes that are all integrated in. So there are a variety of different ways, touch screens as well on the wall. So there are a lot of different ways to control the systems, assuming that they're designed well, all within a centralized control system. For voice control, we can be able to really tee off scenes, which take multiple systems. So let's say the temperature in the room, the shades in the room, the audio and the source of the audio that is happening, the television, a few other things as well, and really kind of create just one speaking term to be able to get multiple things to happen at once. So we have voice control systems that are out there that are cloud-based, most of them. We have others that are private. So some of the privacy concerns around voice control have really come up over the last couple of years. The good news is we now have systems that offer voice control that are 100% private and do not share any of the information you put into it, which is nice and something a lot of people want. Dedicated entertainment rooms are one of our favorite things to work on as integrators. And as part of the design process, we're really looking at the video, the audio, the lighting. We are creating an experience in these rooms. And we're also looking at, in some cases, we're trying to manage the acoustics in that room. So for example, in the blue dedicated theater here, you can see that there's designs on the walls. Those are actually audio panels that are really designed and supported to create truly a movie theater experience in your dedicated theater room. So in this case, you also have starlight ceilings, which is cool and something that people often opt into to kind of like promote a really movie theater-like experience. The video here looks like a fixed screen, which is on the wall here. It could also be a motorized screen that comes down from the ceiling. We have a in-wall subwoofer I can see on the lower left room corner there that is providing some of the bass. And you can see in the ceiling, there are architectural speakers there providing the channels of audio. So as we look at dedicated entertainment rooms, we're helping design not only the aesthetic and letting people know what the choices are. There are a lot of different choices for panels and looks and lighting and things like that. And there are a lot of different choices for audio configuration setup, whether it be 5.1, 7.1, 11.1. And essentially the content that comes through here, there also are options there around whether or not, what is the quality of the actual picture that's coming through. That really is driven by the projector, or what's called a micro LED, which is really the newer technology that is starting to take over the projector technology. Over on the other side, which is a little bit more, it's a little brighter, right? These particular clients wanted something that was more like a living room feel, right? So what you see here is there is a projector that is mounted on the ceiling, white, and it sort of blends into the ceiling here. You see also that the screen, in this case, is an automated screen. We can see that they're very small at the top. You can see that there's some notches on the left and the right. And that means that this screen is meant to roll up into the ceiling. So it could be that there's a television behind this, for example, during the day. And then at night, when they want to go ahead and experience a movie theater, more of a movie theater type experience, they probably close their drapes, which are over on the right-hand side. They're open right now. Close the drapes. You want it to be as dark as possible in that room. The screen drops down, the lighting gets to the right temperature, and boom, they're in their version of what a movie theater is. So dedicated entertainment rooms are a lot of fun and great things to work with integrators on as we understand audio design and technology. Surveillance, security, and access. So surveillance, security, and access really is a very broad category. So it's everything from window sensors, glass break sensors that are on entry points and windows and doors. It is smart locks that we talked about earlier, which are on entry points that you want to be able to control. But it's also things like gate control. So over on the far left-hand side here, you can see this white structure with a built-in intercom, built-in camera, and built-in gate control. And so for people that want to be able to control gates and to be able to control access, those are things that really in the design stage, we want to make sure that we have fiber typically running out to the gate because of the distance. You're going to need connectivity there. You're certainly going to need power there. And that we've got essentially the backbone network infrastructure in place at the house to be able to support that particular piece of access control. In the middle here, we have a video doorbell, very popular. This is really kind of taken over what used to be a ring, and who knows if somebody's home, right? You can answer your door from anywhere in the world now because this connects to your smartphone. There are some products out there that are more public than others. So know that some people get concerned about where video footage is being stored. We have private systems and then there are public systems. So depending upon the client and what level of privacy they want, there's now systems that will really support both of those positions. And then commonly cameras are, very popular, and there are multiple different types of cameras. So these ones are very visible for this particular house. There are also cameras that can be more hidden. They come in multiple different colors. They come in multiple different styles. These are just a couple examples. They also integrate into other systems for your home. For example, I'll give you an example. We have a system where the camera system can identify somebody outside and actually through the home control system be able to verbally let you know somebody is at the front door. They're wearing a red shirt. They've got brown hair. They look like they're in their 40s. It sounds very far-fetched, but that technology is here, and a capability that we can design and plan around quite easily, assuming we're early in the design process and have an understanding of what the client's needs are for cameras. Talk a little bit about a healthy home. We talked about air quality earlier. There are multiple different aspects where an integrator supports the design process for supporting a healthy home. We talked about sound insulation in a theater, but we also have other areas of the home where echoey areas really bother people's ears. So for example, we had a client a couple months ago that has a home gym that when you walk in, it is very echoey. So a really great example of how an integrator can support a healthy home in that case is to really understand the acoustics of the room, which is what part of our profession is, and provide the designer or the homeowner the right products and options that will work within that room to really kind of help it. You might also have a case where, let's say you have a dedicated theater, or maybe it's a music room where there's a lot of music or sound happening in that room, and you want to shield it from bedrooms above or other areas. There's a lot of different applications where we can put back boxes on speakers. We can advise on insulation that actually helps with sound absorption so that we can keep the sound in that room and not have it go throughout the rest of the house. These other areas are really interesting. The sensor portion we talked a little bit about earlier, which are sensors you can put in the room to look at air quality of the room, be able to tie it to your HVAC system so that your HVAC system is providing clean air when it's needed. But there are also things like if you live in a part of the country where radon is a concern, for example, we can design around having radon sensors in the basement to be able to alert people when there is radon, which is not a good thing to have in your house. But there are also things like sensors that will help you with water and understanding mold and things like that in your basement and other areas so that you can understand whether or not you are going to have a problem down the road with humidity and such. For lighting, we talked a little bit about how important the quality of light is, depending upon the time of day. We know that many people at night should not be looking at much blue light, which is really a cooler light. You want cooler light in the middle of the day. That's when as humans, we're meant to have a cooler light during a high noon. That's when the light is right above you, and that's when you're really in a high productivity mode. Light at the end of the day really should mimic sunset, so it should be warmer, and it should not be as bright. So part of what we do within helping a healthy home is really designing the lighting fixtures and programming the home so that it really is mimicking that experience that you have outside. You'd still have the ability to control it to have a brighter light and things like that, but it's going to help you have a healthier sleep and also be more relaxed in the evening because you're not having all these bright blue lights. So a lot of capabilities here, and a lot of things are really moving quickly, actually, which is nice. So the backbone of all smart homes really is the network. So we'll talk a little bit about, well, aren't things wireless nowadays? Why do we need to plan around our technology design, for example, while we're remodeling or doing a new build? The reason is that while these products are controlled wirelessly through voice or through a phone, they do require infrastructure. They require, for example, for speakers, it is speaker wire that is wired back to an amplifier at a centralized location. For lighting controls, those lighting loads need to be wired with high voltage typically. There's some low voltage keypads you can put on, but there needs to be design as part of that. And those products, some of them require really strong Wi-Fi. Some don't, create their own network, which is great, but still that's part of the planning process. Cameras, access control, shades, all the other categories, if your internet's down in your house, you're going to have concerns around getting your content on your television and maybe your streaming services. So part of what we do is, one, we build really what we call commercial grade residential home networks. So this is more than just your internet service provider putting a couple repeaters in place. This is about having a really high performance router and designing access points, which really are like Wi-Fi repeaters are also called, and integrating them into the home at different points. So if you have a multi-floor home, for example, or a really long ranch, you want to be able to work with an integrator to be able to understand, okay, where do these access points need to be so that I don't have gaps in my house? A lot of people have moved to Wi-Fi calling, for example, and that capability can only really be good if you have strong Wi-Fi, and that happens through the design process. Oftentimes when we're working with architectural plans, while we're essentially designing the audio and the other systems and the wiring plans, we are absolutely looking at, okay, these are the places that you're going to want to put in-ceiling access points, or maybe we're going to hide it in a closet because the client doesn't want to see it, which is fine, as long as we can plan in that process to be able to get them at the right point. We also network and design around outdoors, because oftentimes people are bringing their experience outdoors, outdoor movies, outdoor music, outdoor lighting. And Wi-Fi in backyards or front yards, whatever the case may be, that is part of the planning process as well. So we have fully outdoor rated access points that are outside that provide full coverage to the pool area or the patio area, whatever the client has, to make sure that they've got a strong stream. This actual visual you have here kind of shows on one side what happens when you don't have a plan, which is multiple products and things trying to squeeze what they can out of your network, right? And you might have some interference like microwaves, or Wi-Fi signal doesn't like a lot of metal, for example. So you might have like spots, but if you're working on the design with an integrator and understanding, okay, here is what the network infrastructure backbone of my house is going to be, then you're going to have the cars and trucks all lined up and not have interference and other things. It's going to be future-proof for you. So the infrastructure, essentially that we talked about, really, it is not wireless. It is wired. In this case, you've got a photo of what's called a data rack. Not everybody needs a data rack of this size. I'd say probably depending upon the size of the house and what the design is of the house, you might have something that is half this size, right? Or you might have, if it's a very large house, you might have 2 or 3 of these, or in some cases with very large houses, even more. But the point of really this infrastructure slide is to let you know that, instead of having wires and components and all sorts of things in different places of the house, when we're part of the design process, we are centrally wiring everything and home run wiring them to a centralized location, so that, one, it's easy to be serviced. Everything's in the same spot. It's very clear that there are indicator lights on here in case it needs to be serviced. I would also add that a number of these technologies that we put in place now can be remotely monitored if the client wants it, which means that they don't need to go down to their basement or their data room, depending upon where you live and where this is located in the home. They don't need to go down there and flip something off for 60 seconds and flip it back on, right? I think we've all been asked to do that for tech support. Now, a lot of those products actually can be remotely rebooted or rebooted through the client's phone. So that's a really important part of this kind of centralized infrastructure approach that we have. So in this case, you know, there are amplifiers that are driving all of the audio and the architectural audio in the ceiling. There are network components in here. So the router, potentially a switch, potentially also what's called a network video recorder, which is essentially taking all those camera feeds and storing that data locally for the client to be able to have playback. And oftentimes there's a centralized control system where, you know, essentially all of these different systems in the house, from the shades to the lighting to the audio entertainment, are all being controlled in one app or one interface for the client. That also, the kind of the brains of the home, that lives here in the centralized rack location as well. We talked a little bit about this, wired versus wireless. So it's wireless control, but the infrastructure and the design planning is wired. For most of the products that we design around, it is low voltage wiring. It would be Cat 6. It might be fiber. It might be some other security level type of wiring that supports, you know, shades or other activities. As long as we're part of the process where we're looking at the architectural plans and we're understanding how people want to live in the home and what the design of the home is, we can provide a recommendation to make sure that the wired portion of the project is ready for that client, not only at move-in, but also maybe 5 or 10 years later when they want to add something later, and their walls are all closed up and it's impossible to get any wires anywhere with the new insulation that's out there. That capability is pre-wired for that and future-proofing the home for kind of easy enjoyment. And the wireless portion of it really is about the control and controlling through smartphone and other areas. We talked a little bit about the different modes of control beyond voice. So smartphone is very popular. We always design around one app unless the client is like, I don't mind if I have 5 apps, or I like all 5 apps and they want to be able to keep it. That's not the majority of people, but some people like that, which is okay. In the middle here, you've got an example of a keypad. So this is what I was talking about earlier. This particular room, you've got, you know, all off, all on. Maybe there's a relax scene or a good night scene there, entertain scene. And then there's buttons on the bottom. And the buttons on the bottom, which are up and down buttons, those can be programmed so that maybe they are making the shades go up and down. Maybe they are dimming the light. Maybe they are driving the audio control, turning it up and down really easily. What we love about wall controls, smart wall controls, is it really takes the phone out of the equation so that anybody can walk into that room without needing to have all the apps and understanding how to use them, and just be able to, like flipping a switch, press a button. So it's very, very easy to use. We find very cross-generational, depending upon what the technical capability is of the person. Anybody knows how to push a button. So we really love wall controls. I'll also point out that on that scenario we talked about earlier, where there's 6 banks of switches there, this is what you can have with really great design thinking and planning within a home. You don't have to have all of these switches and loads. They can be combined to control all sorts of things beyond lighting, but it needs to be done at that architectural plan process. And then lastly, over here, we've got a touchscreen, which is very popular for, I would say, we see them in kitchens or central locations where the family, if it's a family in the home, they're aggregating so that multiple people have access to Spotify, shades, lighting, all the different systems, cameras. In some cases, if somebody rings your smart doorbell, that person actually shows up on this control screen. So there's a lot of different capabilities for touch panels. And while we don't always recommend them in every room, there's a few key areas where we find that it really helps people use their actual control system in a way that fits most people in the family. This is a little bit about designing with service. So there's a lot of different categories we talked about. We talked about lighting control. We talked about motion sensors. We talked about audio. We talked about shades. We talked about televisions, intercoms, touchscreens, all these different things, right? So all of these, essentially are capabilities that a client has the ability to integrate with a technology mindset. So part of the process that an integrator will support a designer or a home builder or a client with is understanding really what are the options based on the floors. So in this case, we've got first floor, ground floor, and lower ground floor. And in this particular, this isn't ours. This is actually came from the course. This is an example of what you might kind of walk through on the planning process to understand, okay, what is going to be where? And this will feed into really marked up architectural plans and guide the conversation around, okay, here's what we want based on the floor and the experience for the client. So one of the concerns as we kind of start to wrap up the course, some people have concerns around, all right, the life cycle of technology is so short nowadays, right? So, products are coming into the market, they're coming out of the market. There are a lot of startups that have been in this, category for the last couple of years, and honestly, new ones come up every day. There's a lot of technology that we talked about that really does not have a short life cycle. So great examples of this are, audio speakers and designing around audio speakers and the control of that. That is not something that's going to change dramatically in the next 10 to 20 years. Speaker technology is a pretty mature category, and there's not anything there that's going to really be put in place that's going to be out of date in a year or two. Camera technology also has come a long way. There's a lot of AI being built into cameras nowadays. So between the AI and then also the high definition products that are out there, that life cycle also is a lot longer than what it was in CCTV days. So I think that we're starting to see a lot more maturity there. Network capabilities, if we look at Wi-Fi 7 is sort of starting to emerge, but essentially, the pipeline that's coming into the house, whether it be fiber or some other type of gigabit, whatever's coming into the house, that is really the pipeline that we have to work from. So for networking products, those are on a faster kind of like life cycle. So we're really seeing, every, 4 to 5 years over the last 10 years, where if you're making a jump and putting in a new router or a new switch or a new access points, you are gaining a lot more capability. With that said, similar to the security piece, we're starting to see that kind of like top off a bit. Like it can only get so fast based on the pipeline that's coming into our house. And then lighting controls are very stable. There's certainly if you're utilizing a brand that's been doing this for a while, there's a couple that have had automated lighting technologies out there for 20 years and they're not going anywhere. So part of what we provide, an integrator provides as part of the design process, is making sure that the brands that are selected are not a flash in the pan. They are trusted brands that are in the industry, have been doing this for a while, aren't going anywhere. And that really is part of the trusted advisor role that an integrator plays for builders, interior designers, electricians, and homeowners, to make sure that the product that is being designed here is going to have a long life cycle. It's also going to be supported, because as we know that putting in technology is great, but ultimately, things need to be serviced just like electrical systems and plumbing systems in the house. Technology systems also need to be serviced. So working with a CEDIA integrator helps understand really that the product's going to be serviced over the long term so that people can enjoy it. So the last part of this, and number 4 kind of like bullet point on our learning objectives today, is really, okay, how do I start? And really, what I just want to impress upon you today is that you cannot start too early. in my opinion. If you are starting to put together architectural plans or you're engaging around a new home or a remodel, really the earlier you get in for the integrator to be able to work with a designer or the client or the builder or the architect, the earlier you get in, the more they're going to be able to share really what the experiences could be. So what's possible, be able to understand who the homeowner is going to be or what the vision of the builder, architect, designer is that are trying to really put together this home, so that we can make sure that the infrastructure, when it gets to framing, that the electrician or the low voltage integrator or a combination of both completely have all of those integrated systems planned out. It's easy, it's turnkey, just like the rest of the systems in the house, and that the cables are there when they're needed. So really it is about a consultation, the design process, very similar to the other portions of designing a home. It's just that this is really about designing the technology and integrating the technology, make sure that it's experienced the way it is intended through proper planning, just like the rest of the portions of the house. So early is best to really engage. Well, this is when, so I kind of covered this already. So you can't be early enough is, if you don't have plans, I guess, and you don't really understand whether or not you're building, that might be too early. But for the most part, if you are looking at or working with somebody who is building, even before the architectural plans, just to understand who is going to be living in the house, how they want to experience it, it doesn't hurt to reach out as early as possible to get them involved in the planning. And then who? This is course obviously was put together through CEDIA, which is the Custom Electronics Design and Installation Association. CEDIA has certified members all across the country who really are specialists in all the technology aspects that we talked about today. This is their trade. This is a new emerging trade. I say new, but it's been around for 20, 25 years. If you think of plumbers and electricians, they've probably been around 60, 70 years, depending upon that infrastructure. So really, we recommend working with a CEDIA member as they've really kind of been vetted, they're insured, they're background checked, and they are responsible and have really signed up for the mission to make sure that people are being taken care of as part of this process and that we're working with the right trade partners in a way to support them. That is all we have today. Thank you very much for your time. I hope this was a good first introduction to designing integrated technology into the home and how to do it, when to do it, and what's possible. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out anytime. Our information is levelupautomation.com. You can call us through 1-800-979-2791 as well. And I hope you have a great day. Thank you.